Here's another key insight for you about fear. Ready for this? Fear is resistance to a future experience. Let me repeat because this is critical. Fear is resistance to a future experience. That's very powerful. This tells you how to overcome fear if you understand this key insight. That's all that fear really is. Your mind is imagining a future scenario that seems to contradict your identity and how you want to feel and who you think you are. Like, for example, if you're a Christian and I tell you that tomorrow you're going to have to abandon Christianity, burn the Bible, and become a Muslim and pray to Allah 5 times a day by facing Mecca, and that your kids are also going to have to convert, and they're going to be converted by force. You don't have a choice in this. They will be converted, you will convert all together, or you will be killed. If I tell you this, what's going to happen? Of course, your mind is going to imagine this scenario, and then, because given your identity, and you want your family and your children to all be Christians and all this, given that is true for you, based on a lifetime of being programmed with Christian beliefs, and based on a lifetime of believing that Muslims are bad and evil and wrong and unchristian and all this, and that they're going to hell. Based on that, of course, now you have a deep resistance to experiencing that. You don't want to experience being converted into a Muslim. And that's what you really fear. So fear is about refusing to experience things. Now, if you wanted to make a really bold and counterintuitive move here, you could Aikido this problem and you could say, okay, fuck it. So I'll become a Muslim. I'll enjoy it. What's wrong with being converted to being a Muslim? I'll pray to Allah. It'll be good. It'll be fun. My kids will do it. We'll get all it. It'll be great. I don't want to resist it. Let me experience what it's like to be a Muslim. Then maybe I'll turn back to a Christian later on. Maybe next year I'll be a Christian. Maybe I'll try being a Buddhist. If you took that attitude, the fear would be gone. You would eliminate the fear. But see, the problem is that's precisely the attitude that you don't want to take. You see how counterintuitive it is? Every fiber of your identity is going to be telling you, no, I can't be a Muslim. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be awful. This is going to be the end. I'm going to hell. It's going to be like my family's going to be ruined. I'm going to be an outcast, and oh my God, and I'm going to be the worst sinner. I'm going to let myself be possessed by no, Leo, no. See, that's attachment. Attachment creates fear. If you let go of your Christian identity, you'll stop fearing it. In this case, this situation. So the solution is to actually surrender yourself to the thing that you are afraid of experiencing in the future. So in this example, let's say your rent is due tomorrow, but you don't have the money. And in your mind, of course, you're imagining what's going to happen. The landlord's going to come knocking down your door. And of course, your mind is very vivid at this. You know, your mind paints really good pictures. He's knocking down the door and yelling at you, and he's posting eviction notices and telling you that the police are coming. They're going to kick you out and your kids. And then you're imagining in your mind that you and your children are going to be kicked out of the street. You're going to lose all your possessions. They're not going to give you enough time to take all your stuff out. You can't go live anywhere else. You don't have anywhere else to be. You're going to be living on the street. You're going to be panhandling for quarters out in the hot sun, and your daughter is going to become some whore that, that sucks guys' dicks for a little bag of crack cocaine or something on the street. That's the image you have in your mind. And of course, this terrifies you because you don't want to experience that. So what's the solution? The mistake people make is they try to run away from this. The solution is very radical and it's very counterintuitive, and this is why this is advanced work. This is why this is not something that newbies are going to appreciate. The solution is to accept that. The solution is to imagine yourself on the street, begging for quarters in the sun, and to imagine your daughter sucking dicks in the back of some parking lot for crack, and to be okay with that. That's the solution. And if you do that, your fear will be relieved. But of course, you're not going to do that because you're too weak and you're not wise enough to do it. That's right, you're not wise enough to do it. You're also not conscious enough to do it. You don't have enough self-control to do it because you're too afraid. You're paralyzed by your fear. Because you've built up an identity about how your daughter should be, how you should be, how much money you should have, and so on. Radical stuff, right? Radical stuff. I agree with you. It's radical stuff. This is why it's not taught. And you wonder why they don't teach this in school? This is why. The other reason they don't teach it to you in school, by the way, is because if they taught it to you, you would become invincible. See, if school taught children how fear really works from the age of 6 or even like from the age of 4, let's say when you start preschool, all the way till 18 when you graduate from high school, by that time, in those 12 or 14 years, if the curriculum was strong enough, children would be taught so well and they would master their fear so well that they would become fucking invincible, which means, of course, that you couldn't control them. And of course, society is based upon controlling you. Business, marketing, politics, it's all about control. Religion is all about control. Ego is all about control. Collective ego is all about control. It's all about survival. So, of course, they won't teach you this. And of course, it's not because they're nefarious and evil. It's mostly because they themselves are scared shitless and they don't know. In fact, they're scared shitless of even the idea of teaching this to you. Because then the fear comes up of like, well, Leo, but if everyone in society is fearless, what happens then? What's going to happen to business? What's going to happen to government? What's going to happen to religion? Does that mean Christianity dies out? Does that mean there's no more Islam? Does that mean there's no more wage slavery? What does that mean? Yeah, it means radical changes for society, that's for sure. It means radical changes for culture. And then, of course, everyone's attached to their culture. They don't want to change their culture. They don't want to change their language. Right? So the ultimate solution to fear is to be willing to live through the thing you fear most. And if you can do that, you'll become invincible. Of course, this is difficult to do in practice, which is why you have to practice it a lot. It goes against all of your biological urges, everything that you've been programmed with. And the way that you can start doing this is just by practicing it in your mind. Imagine that scenario and then just sort of take a deep breath and then just say, well, would it really be so bad? Is it really going to be as bad as I imagine? And of course, your mind is probably going to say, yes, it is. It's going to be so bad if I'm poor and hungry on the street. It's going to be awful. And the truth is that it probably will be awful. And the reason it's going to be awful is because you've built your entire life and all of your happiness upon conditional material possessions. So, of course, when you lose all your material possessions and all you remain with is just your consciousness and your spirituality, in practice, your spiritual development is so low and your consciousness is so low that you're literally left with nothing, less than nothing. Not the spiritual nothing. You're left with a terribly addicted materialistic mind, monkey mind, which is going to be going through withdrawal symptoms from all these material luxuries that you had and that now you lost. So, of course, it's not going to be pleasant if you're kicked out of your cushy apartment and then you have to beg for quarters on the street. It's going to be extremely painful, traumatic. You're going to suffer. You're probably going to want to kill yourself. Yeah, it's going to be terrible. That shows you the extent to which your life is built upon the wrong thing. Your life is built upon conditional happiness, buttressed by material possessions and circumstances, rather than the only thing that can generate true happiness and the only thing that can't be taken away from you, which is your consciousness, which is your spiritual development. But most people are so poorly spiritually developed that they can't practice what I'm saying here, which is why, again, this is not appropriate for newbies. Even if you wanted to, your ability to practice this will be very poor because your level of spiritual development and consciousness is so poor. So you're going to have to spend some years developing that, developing your mindfulness skills, shedding certain materialistic drives and cravings that you have, having some awakening experience, some mystical experiences, some enlightenment experiences, and then you'll be able to practice this much better.